Thank you for joining us in another edition of BOI Weekly. I'm Olayemi Odunuga. The Bank of Industry's quest to empower Nigerians in various sectors of the economy is the reason behind the creation of the BOI Intervention Fund Scheme, which aims at empowering micro, small and medium entrepreneurs. On this week's edition of the program, our spotlight is on Lagos-based Kian Smith Trade and Company Limited and Olowo Olaosebikon, an ICT specialist in Jos, the Plateau State capital. Our team paid them a visit at their locations and they speak to us about the impact of the credit facility from BOI on their businesses. Welcome to the program. We begin with Nere Teriba, who is the founder and vice chairman of Kian Smith Trade and Company Limited, which was incorporated in July 2011. The company engages in the exploration, mining, processing, and trading of gold.
The business of mining is no doubt a capital-intensive one, but with the aid of the Bank of Industry, young entrepreneurs like Nere Teriba are making giant strides. She takes our team down memory lane as she highlights some of the conditions for accessing loans from the Bank of Industry.
How would you describe the gold mining business in Nigeria, and what gap would you say that your company has come to fill?
For us, it wasn't easy, but it's the process you go through to get a loan. And the reason why it's not easy for them, I don't think it has anything to do with the BOI's, it's not the BOI's policy. I looked at the policy, the conditions were not difficult. It's just the nature of a sector that's mostly informal, that's formalizing. I think there's still a ways to go for people like that to easily have access to finance. Like I said, trust. They're going to look for a guarantor. So there are those issues, I would say, and it's just the nature of, should I say, the transition from an informal sector to a formal sector. But that said, I think us accessing the loan shows people that it exists. Like I said, I was one of the early skeptics. It exists, we accessed it. It's been successful so far. And yes, for the people who are just getting into the financial education of having licenses and accessing the loan, I'm sure it will probably be, for a little while, be difficult, and I hope that other companies can come alongside and do the same thing. Wow, I mean, I think one thing that has been great, for example, has been the single-digit interest. In gold, the gold is one of those industries where everybody hears gold and you think somebody's making billions of dollars. It doesn't work that way. In the gold industry, the margins are very, very small along the value chain, and you just pass on the margin, small. So for something like gold, having a loan with double interest rates would be very painful. But the single interest rate for gold has just been ideal for at least the gold sector, for mining and trade. So I think that has been the biggest impact, the interest rate, but also maybe just the timing for us. We've been fortunate that we're presently in a bull market for gold. So gold is doing well. There's a big demand for gold, so that as well. So it's been very timely, the BOI ASM fund, very timely for the sector. I think what I would say for the ASM fund in particular is it's a very good opportunity. People may look at it as cumbersome, but that's the process of getting a loan. But I would say that once you do access it, it's a very good opportunity for our sector, especially artisanal small-scale mining, those that need equipment, especially if you're sure, you know your business, you know what you're doing. I encourage other companies, mining companies that have maybe sat on the sidelines and looked at this and said, is this real? I really want to encourage them to come ahead. There's no time like this where, look at the economic crisis in the world, where you're going to find such low interest rates, and the fund, I'm not sure how long the fund will be available, but that opportunity. For gold, I really do think, like I said, with jewelry, I'm not saying mining, because mining has a lot of risk. Mm-hmm. It's another, use our word, wahala. to go in that aspect. But for jewelry production, the market is there. It's already markets: Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, Abuja, Kaduna, Senegal, around there. We know the markets, and I find that most people, especially when I meet Nigerian women, they have an idea of, they know the jewelry they like, they know the jewelry their mothers like, they know the jewelry they wear for work. It's not, in terms of taste, it's there. I think, of course, the technical skill, working with partnership to get what we need done, but I really feel that the industry for jewelry is huge. Look at even what happened right now with the coronavirus. A lot of women I hear of that usually travel to go and buy jewelry for weddings. No. So even some of the jewelers have been reaching out to us saying the gold they import, because they were importing ready-made alloys, they can't even access raw material because of the lockdown. But if we were producing our own jewelry, our own metals, our own alloys, so I see this as a great opportunity for Nigeria and for the sector.
The coronavirus pandemic has affected a lot of businesses all over the world. But you mentioned something about the fact that there's a bit of an advantage given the gold business in Nigeria. Can you please highlight a little bit more on that?
Yes, on the industry, but also to highlight the opportunity. I think for some people, we could never imagine a world where importation, where you would have such a lag or a block on importation, not an embargo. You just couldn't. And if you can, you're going to have to even pay. Imports are already expensive in Nigeria, but I've been hearing, even for me with food, the ones I buy, but hearing about the costs of things right now in the market because of it being imported. And then there are some things that you can't even access. So I feel like what the coronavirus season has shown us, at least countries, back to national interest, if we look at what Trump was trying to say about steel in the US, and even Nigeria, Jakarta, that it's really important for a country to not have plans that make it fully dependent on external sources. If you produce or you have the raw material, I think it's a good time for Nigeria to sit down and start really thinking about how it's adding value to its raw materials. And I think so that opportunity is not just about gold, even food. I feel like a lot of farmers have the same problem. For farm, everything that has to do with value addition, and I mean, this is the Bank of Industry. I really feel that this is a scene where the Bank of Industry will find that a lot of their clients will probably be reaching out more and telling you that, either they're doing very well based on where they are in the value chain, or maybe if they had an issue because they were cut off from supply disruptions. So that's what I'll say the plus is. The plus has been really highlighting to people the need, the opportunity that they may not have seen before. But at the same time, for us that produce gold, these supply disruptions and also gold's also economic impact have put higher value on gold.
With single interest digit loans from the Bank of Industry, Nere Tariba encourages young entrepreneurs who are desirous of acquiring equipment to approach the Bank of Industry.
How profitable would you describe the gold mining value chain?
I would describe the industry as being more artisanal and small scale in terms of mining capacity. There is one large project, a gold mine project, by Thor Exploration, Segulola in Osun State. That's the only notable large gold project. Otherwise, everything is artisanal to small scale. What I would say that the gap we filled is maybe more integrating the value chain from mine fully to market. Usually in the sector, you find people who are mining, maybe some people who are trading, but there hasn't been a full integration, is what I would say has been maybe missing thus far. And part of that has just not allowed maybe enough visibility into the opportunities for the sector. I think I would say for me the biggest opportunity I see is for the jewelry industry and jewelry production. Nigeria is well known in the jewelry markets, Dubai, Italy, and India, for its consumption of jewelry. And yet we don't really produce. And just like the way I see the music industry and the fashion industry, there was a time where Nigeria was importing, but now we produce. And our culture, our flair, our style is very unique. So I really feel that the jewelry industry is the biggest should I say, value just sitting there untapped for us.
Looking at countries like Italy, United Arab Emirates, and India, would you say that Nigeria has opportunity to also tap into the gold business?
The carrot is just really about the purity. And so usually you could even have gold that's pure when it's been refined or mined. But oftentimes when it comes to jewelry, the purer the gold is, the softer it is. So oftentimes 24 karat is too soft. You'll make your jewelry brittle. So usually you want to add another metal. That's how you alloy it to bring the carat down. So Italians especially prefer 18 karat. It's stronger. But you find that India, Eastern culture, the Middle East, they prefer 23, 22 karat because gold for them is a store of value. It's not just about beauty. So for them, the gold has more value as a commodity, as storage, while also having the beauty factor. But to answer your question, I would say that in Nigeria, for us, we found that depending on where it is, the gold being mined comes in varying purity. Same thing, because sometimes the ore naturally may have more iron. Some ores have silver with them. So it's almost like you're having natural alloys coming out and now you're extracting. But that said, the gold you get in Osun State is very pure. It's between 22 and 23.6 carat, just on its own mined, not much impurities alloyed. In other parts of Nigeria, you may find gold 14 carat, 18. But yeah, so the summary to answer your question, really, the gold we mine in Nigeria is on par in the world. In fact, in Dubai, they know Nigeria's gold. And only the Bank of Industry really could have done that. And if you look at that I think for the sector now, those who may be, especially let me stick to the ASM fund, I can speak for mining, I'm not sure about others. But those of us who are mining, everywhere I know, there's a physical demand for metals. And supply has been cut off. Even if there's a way that the Bank of Industry could step in for those who are aggregating, maybe aggregating to add value here, or even if it's to export, whatever the case may be, this is just the opportunity that, the way I look at banking in Nigeria, it's only the Bank of Industry that can fill that value, that hole, that gap. So that happened for us. It was unexpected. We didn't see it that way at first, but at the end we look at it and we say, very interesting. It was an opportunity, but I think I have to commend the Bank of Industry because they're the only, I may be wrong, as far as I know, they're the only bank right now with that kind of fund, with single digits that can help a sector like ours presently in this economy. So I would like to encourage BOI to see what they can do. One hand reaching the other clients they have in the sector and vice versa, but this timing for the economy and still needing finance and funds to power the economy, especially industry, I have to really say thank you to BOI and the ASM Fund.
The next report features Olowo Olaosebikon, whose love for ICT and software development led him to take advantage of the BOI facility for young entrepreneurs. Let's hear from him.
Olowo Olaosebikon is an ICT specialist who specializes in application, web and software developments, as well as corporate training, schools management systems, and development of online learning platforms. His company, MOOCs Africa, an information technology company, registered in Nigeria, started in 2017. According to him, his quest to start the company began shortly after the completion of his National Youth Service Corps program, after studying computer science and with a commitment of providing innovative IT solutions in the education sector and for other small businesses.
Currently, like I said earlier, we provide IT services. Now, to be more specific, we actually develop IT solutions, both web-based IT solutions and mobile app-based solutions. And we provide a lot of training services, which include what we have both mobile training and localized training. For some time now, we've reduced our localized training because of venue size, but our mobile training includes we traveling across the country, running trainings on campuses across country, especially IT-based training. So we train students of, for example, we have a training that we call IT career compliance training, What that means is that every field is powered today by IT. No matter what you're doing today, there is something you have to do with IT. So we created a series of training for different disciplines that are not necessarily in computer science. So for example, we train students or graduates of accounting, both students or graduates of accounting. We train them on the use of accounting software, like Sage accounting software and QuickBooks. And for computer science students while on campus too, we also run trainings for them on the use of things like web development and of course the business side of development, web development. Now, we also provide other services like with our MOOCs Africa, we provide other services like learning management systems and school management systems. They are web-based solutions, but let me be more specific. So for example, for schools, we provide school management systems for schools. There are solutions that we build that are web-based, but that help to manage the entire activities of the school. We also provide what we call learning management system for schools and organizations. During the COVID era, a lot of attention turned to online learning. So a lot of schools needed to come up with a way to reach their kids without the physical classroom bother. Then our learning management system became a solution that was much more accepted and appreciated by schools. We built for a couple of schools the learning management system for schools. So it's a platform where teachers can teach their students even without being present physically in schools. And of course, we have this platform we're building online, which is a big, we're working on to be a major learning hub across the country and indeed across Africa, which is at mookaf.com. Basically, we're working on developing some series of courses that people can take online, which is still ongoing. Development is ongoing. We have about 500 courses that we're building currently, and the development is ongoing. Somewhere before the end of this year, we're hoping to have launched both online and on our apps generally. And for our staff strength, before we started working with BOI, especially in the previous in our previous institution, we had just 1 or 2 staff that we could work with. But ever since we got BOI, on ground we have at least 3 people that work on our projects. Then basically depending on the work we're doing. So if we have some work, we have freelancers that work with us on and off. They don't work here, depending on the project we have. Freelancer in total, plus our freelancers, plus in-house staff, and then of course people that do training as instance on contract. In total, depending on that project, could be up to about 10 from time to time, depending on the size of projects we are working on. But primarily at the office center, we have just 3 people physically here. We have 3 people physically here aside me that work on our projects, aside freelancers.
One of his major projects is an online learning platform being developed for the African continent.
It was then, there was a program, we've always heard about Bank of Industry, and to be honest, those days when we hear Bank of Industry, we just think it's for where Bank of Industry is for big players in the industry. One day we are going to become big players and all that. So nobody really bothers going to Bank of Industry, at least among my colleagues in business. But with time, we got to learn that there was this program by Bank of Industry in partnership with the federal government called Young Entrepreneurship Scheme, called YES, that's Young Entrepreneurship Scheme. The idea was to help to train young Nigerians and young business owners and entrepreneurs in Nigeria, and of course give them loan to power their business. So we then applied for this YES program. We went through a series of trainings at their office in Bauchi, and then over time, after the trainings, we got some disbursements for equipment and of course for working capital, which has been very beneficial to our business. So basically, it was through a program, a special program they were running then in partnership with the federal government on media. We heard about it, and of course there was a deadline to register, so we got registered and we got drafted in and into the whole thing.
Olowo's desire to expand the business led him to approach the Bank of Industry for a credit facility, a decision he describes as his best business resolution.
Yeah, basically, before we got the BOI, before we had the relationship with BOI and we got the input from BOI, businesses were trying to take off. Anybody starting business from scratch in Nigeria knows what I'm talking about. It could be sometimes very tough, especially when you're looking for investors and you probably don't have one yet. So before we got BOI, we had very few capacity to employ people. So we had a lot of ideas that we had to hold on with because there was no execution strength, though they are great ideas that we could have worked on. And of course, we had need of equipment which we didn't have to at the time, especially a lot of equipment that we needed to develop the projects we were working on. Those were not really on ground. So we were basically working more on our trainings, especially off trainings that were done outside of our offices. And of course, a few web-based services we're providing for schools and other organizations. But we couldn't really expand to most of the things we wanted to work on. Through the CS scheme, we got a loan of about 2.5 million, and basically to get us equipment for the projects we were working on. Much of the loans came as equipment supplied to us, and then of course part of it for working capital. Basically, that's just it.
We see the tutorial class for upcoming ICT developers.
So the example of our input device is the keyboard. It helps us to enter data, maybe in numeric form or alphabetic form.
The organization's core values of purpose, passion, pursuit and principles have been the driving force in service delivery, especially on the main projects that attracted the intervention of the Bank of Industry.
And here is where we draw the curtain on the show this week. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget, the Bank of Industry continues to provide interventions for various industries to thrive, and there is absolutely more where that is coming from. So as an entrepreneur, if you need support to grow your business, you can reach out to any of the branches of the bank closest to you, or you can log on to the website at boi.ng. You can also follow the bank on all social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Until next time, I'm Olayemi Odunuga. Thanks for watching.